Hello, and welcome to Ideas with Diana on this September 22nd, 2023. This is episode 617. For today's topic and podcast, I'd like to talk about a recent article that I had published in 2600 magazine. This is called How I Became a Hacker, and the article is on page 26, 27, and 28. And the bio leads Diana K is currently a retired executive medical researcher and Arduino enthusiast hobbyist. During her retirement, she works on Arduino and other projects and also does podcasting. It's available in stores as Barnes and Noble and other bookstores. And this is the fall 2000 issue, volume 42, number 2, $8.95 in the US, $10.95 in Canada. Second topic I'd like to talk about is that I still think the best policy is trade, because basically what happens. So what is a better policy than trade? Because basically when we trade with each other, we can do a lot. We do a lot of things. I mean, people are made happy. Other people are made happy. Um, and sometimes we can have politics go too far, and that's why I say uh, that's why I say that's why I say trade is the best policy like that though. So I still believe that trade is the best policy, and it is important that we do that we maintain trade. For this segment, I would like to talk about the article that appeared in 2600 magazine, volume 40, number 2, um, on entitled "How I Became a Hacker." I used the pen name Diana K because sometimes people have trouble spelling my last name or pronouncing my last name, so I just shorten it use it by the first letter. But when we look at the article, let me just read the first paragraph for you. Some may think that a person becomes a hacker by learning how to become a hacker. For me, it's about solving problems as it was for my dad. I actually became a hacker at age 7 when my dad taught me how to use a GE635 mainframe using a teletype ASR33 with a paper tape reader and punch to load basic and Fortran programs. He also taught me how to program an IBM 404 plug programming computer. Let me get that out and show you that. Just a minute. Um, Hold on. Um, this is it, the IBM plug 404 computer. It still works. If we find an IBM 404 and plug it in, it will still work. You can see all the cables here. I have it wrapped in saran wrap because there's a lot of connections. And let's turn in the back here, and you can see all the different connections. For those who used IBM 404, let's see, maybe we can pull some of this down. Oh yeah, there we go. So you can see some of it right here. You can see it looks like a lot like my breadboard projects. And this I keep in memory of my dad, because that was a big breakthrough for him when he learned to use the IBM 404 and other things. And just to continue with part of the second paragraph, in 1989 I started my position as a medical researcher in charge of a fax lab, fluorescent activated cell sorter lab. When I went to a bank to get a car loan, they actually thought I ran a lab of fax machines or facsimile machines at the time. But no, I said no, it's medical research. It's actually a Becton Dickinson Fax Star Plus flow cytometer cell sorter. What a mouthful. When I went to bank to open a checking account, the clerk thought I was a manager of a bunch of fax machines. And actually, fax is an acronym for fluorescent activated cell sorting. And my lab had a BD Fax Star Plus with an HP 9000 IBM PC. I watched Real Genius that year and was surprised the same equipment was used in the movie. The purpose of the machine, in quotation marks, or space shuttle, in quotation marks, as it's called, where I worked, was to collect data from blood samples. The machine was like a water microscope with cells passed through a column and was sampled via a laser beam with 5 parameters corrected then. Now it's about 22. Then the data would be put on IBM on HP 9000. The issue that existed was that the HP 9000 used a specialized 3.5-inch disk, and the disks were not easily translatable to an IBM format. Also, the HP was the only computer for processing and analysis. Well, now, when you think about this, this presented a big problem. As you read the article, you'll see how I solved this. So I like to welcome comments on those who have a chance to read the article. And remember, you can reach me at Twitter or X at Diana1A. And we'll move on to the next segment. In this next segment, I like to talk about the benefit of trade. The benefit of trade, the reason why I feel trade is the best policy is because simply, when people trade, you know, everyone's happy. The people make the product, the people buy the product, people can get stuff done. It's like what I explained to a friend of mine. He says, well, you know, how do you do all this unlimited budget you have? And I sort of say, well, thank heavens for AliExpress. They've been great to me. I mean, basically, I'm a platinum buyer. And also, you know, they get all my stuff to me within 14 days. You order at least $5, you get it in 14 days. And even when I don't order $5 worth, they still send it to me right away. Or if I order small packages, like I did before, they put them in multiple packages like this, and it comes right through here and gets right to me. And this is a power supply that I bought from them. A switchable 3 to 12 volt power supply, which is nice to work on my function boards. And what happens? I buy from other vendors as Jameco, DigiKey, and Mouser. That though, but you know, but the biggest thing though is, you know, sometimes I can't find what I need to find on one vendor. So I'm glad that there are multiple vendors, and also I'm glad that like I said, you know, I have a choice, because sometimes when you really look for certain chips or something, you could go on internet and type, and it's like, you know, you're looking for a 74181, and you can see something like on some bid site, $22 for a 7181, and you can see another site that says $6, another one that says $35 or something, and then you go on another site, you like to go to other companies' sites like AliExpress, or you find them for 80 cents. Well, you know, the thing is, when I do my research and development, I'm in retirement right now, so I have to watch my income, and what happens, it really helps me extend my income. And the vendors I buy from are all vetted, and I'm doing the same thing that many U.S. companies do. Many U.S. companies buy stuff that through China, they're made in China. Even like one wire lap tool I bought is made by a company in the United States, but is actually manufactured at a plant in China and shipped to me from a warehouse in Los Angeles. So since we moved so much of our manufacturing, you know, trade is the best policy. But you know, the thing is, what we have to realize is we are now an independent world society. We each rely on each other. We just can't say, well, okay, we're going to cut off your supply of chips and say, oh, you can't buy from country X. Well, ask people who own cars with computers and displays on them, and it's like, take the car shop. Well, you know, it's an easy fix. We just need this little IC here, and we can fix it. Great. Well, problem is there's an embargo. What do you mean embargo? Yeah, well, if you're willing to pay $300 for this chip, we can put it in. What? The chip's not worth $300. I looked online and it says I could buy it from a tech place for $100, for $1. Well, yeah. Well, if you're willing to buy 500 at a time, wait 6 weeks and pray, you know. So that's why we need to really be thinking about how we do trade and foreign policy. We got to realize we are independent, and also there's some things I saw that I'll address in another segment about comedy segments about foreign policy, which when I first saw them are quite humorous. And the commentator was fair to say, well, please, to those who may be sensitive, this you may wanna come back in a few minutes because basically, but I'll address that in another segment. But I still think trade is the best policy, and I still think when people try to do things like Animal House with Dean Wormer, you're under double secret probation, or like sometimes with misuse of sanctions, you're under double quintuple secret probation, which means probation 9 times over on that though. I mean, if someone hasn't gotten the message with 9 times probation or double secret probation, they're not going to get the message. Who's ever doing the double secret probation act like Dean Wormer, like the Deltons at Animal House, your approach is wrong. Also, the administration of the universe is wrong. You need to change your thinking, or like even on the Doctor Who episodes of Full Circle and Warriors Gate. Um, infinite procrastination through committee does not work. I'll say this again: infinite procrastination through committee does not work. Are you listening to those who still practice that? And in Warriors Gate, even those who had the power and acted as aggressive colonialists in the past, people who use aggressive power, no abuse of power, eventually it comes back to haunt them because as is mentioned in Warriors Gate, which is from an old English story, I think, by Chaucer, the weak enslave themselves. The weak enslave themselves, which is why colonialists are enslaving themselves today, when African nations have the right to say no and have the right to, and are finding the power to speak up, the power to say no and the power to speak up. So again, what do? Trade is the best policy. When we trade with each other, we get more things done because people who make things, people who sell things, they're pragmatic. They don't care about having an extra Corvette in the garage, or they don't have about having another Maserati. They say, look, I'm interested in making a project, just like this. This is an educational computer. I'm interested in making a project. I need to get this done. I need a power supply. I need an ALU. I need dip switches. I need register chips, LEDs, resistors, logic chips, counters, push buttons. But when you get into politics as well, well, you can get this, but you gotta buy it through my friend, but you gotta pay me a finder's fee. Maybe as I've heard on news of some things about mentioning some people being paid in gold bars and about corruption scandal. Oh, good God. That's why trade is the best policy, because we stop all this corruption and other stuff, because people make stuff, they don't do that. When I buy stuff from AliExpress, I look at the price, look at the quality, meets my price quality. They can get it to me here. Great deal, sold. And what happens is basically they don't have any qualms about currency. Since I live in the United States, my card is in U.S. dollars. Fine, go through. And actually, when I did place my last few orders, they actually go through Los Angeles. I noticed, because AliExpress does have warehouses in Los Angeles, New York, I guess in Chicago, as well as Netherlands, just like Temu does. And many people are discovering AliExpress. I mean, and also other places, because Amazon, AliExpress, and Temu, they're becoming like the Sears and Kmart of the past. But one thing I do want to shout out, another example of trade, is I'm glad to see that Montgomery Ward has made a resurgence along with Midnight Velvet, because we bought a lot of stuff from Ward's. We were loyal Ward's customers for many years when we shopped in Kenosha, and we shopped at the Ward's store in Waukegan. So again, policy is trade is the best policy. To the Dean Wormer thinking, that was funny in the movie in the 70s. But even the administration at UW-Madison realized when they found out they were copying and acting like too much Dean Wormer, or to friends of mine in the UK acting like a limmer, um, uh, and that though. I mean, and that though. I mean, it's funny. It's funny when you watch it, but basically, it's like when you actually have to work in the environment, it's not that funny. It doesn't work. So, to those who are still trying to think of, practicing these bad policies of not working on cooperative foreign trade, where they act as a Dean Wormer, double secret probation, or as a limmer. Sorry, that makes a good comedy series, makes a good movie, but it doesn't work in real life, and I think it'd be better um, to rethink your thinking, and also, or as in Doctor Who, end the committee, stop the infinite procrastination. Now on to the next segment. In this segment, I like to talk about how the decision making that has occurred in the last 2 years has really become comical, because I watched different news shows. I watched Deutsche Welle, France 24, BBC, on PBS in Milwaukee, channel 36.2, and also on streaming, because sometimes in this area, the digital TV signal doesn't come in, because I just wonder if they're running it at full power. And also, on my TCL, I can watch RT, in my bedroom, so I watch RT in streaming, and on my laptop. And the reason why I do this is, some people say, well, we're in a crisis situation. Again, like Dean Wormer, you should not be watching RT. Well, okay, okay, I hear what you're saying, but here's what I say. Even at the foundation of American independence, many of the founding fathers and mothers believed in the philosophy of an old French philosopher that no matter how objectionable or what you say, I will defend your right to say it, which also translates to our Constitution in the United States of a free press. Everyone should have the right to have a free press, and a free press doesn't mean a free press that is not objectionable to a certain political party or a certain political group. A free press is the right of an individual to choose to evaluate an opinion. Just because someone reads something doesn't mean that they may agree, or may disagree, but that they want to see a wider perspective. Or, like, basically, like, some people say, well, if someone reads Das Kapital, they're communists. Well, Oppenheimer wrote Das Kapital, and so do many other great thinkers and creative people, who work for the Allies. Also, many other people read different journals in French and English. I read many journals from Cambridge and Oxford University, as bioscience, nature, and other scientific journals. When I worked as a researcher, I was accused many times, well, you're an American researcher, but you read all these foreign journals. These foreign journals don't know anything, and such and such. This was during the time of AIDS, and it's like, how come basically there's a discrepancy about what's being said in the U.S. lab versus what's being said at the Perry Institute? Hammond. Well, I saw this in Bioscience. I saw this in Nature. Well, those aren't good magazines. You say Nature's not a good magazine, really, or Bioscience, really amazing. Well, why don't you read American Journal of Science? Yes, I read that too. Well, why don't you take their opinion? Because I have questions about their opinion. I have questions about cheerleading at that time too. So I always kept an open mind, although as a researcher I was really chopped to the bit about it. Even, like, at the time when I was a researcher, we were working on one project, and it was a concern we had, because what happened with the one project that we were working on is, I could see the thing about induced apoptosis, and this is a book called When Cells Die, by Apoptosis, by Richard Lockshin, Zahara Zachary, and Jonathan Tilley. And it talks about cell death, themes of protein cell death where mitosis is high and evidence is desirable, cell death in long-lived cells, and the clinical relevance of apoptosis. And this has a lot of research from about 92 and also earlier, but mostly from 92 onward. But when I started talking about this and noticing this in research that we were doing in the last project in my lab, I was accused of drinking too much New Coke. I was accused of reading too many science journals and being afraid or leaned over to their point of view. It's like, in science is science. Just to give an example, the law of gravity doesn't care if you're Russian, European, or American, or Chinese. Again, the law of gravity doesn't care if you're Russian, European, German, Chinese, or American. The law of gravity is law of gravity. If I were to do this over in Russia, law of gravity still works. Over in China, law of gravity still works. Over in Europe, law of gravity still works. But I wonder what they'd say in Brussels. Would they have a big committee meeting about this? It makes you understand a little bit why the UK wanted to leave the EU, because again, the Doctor Who episode, a full circle. Too much procrastination, guys. Too much committees. Also, there's an American book you should read. It's called Death Right Committee. It's a business book and a comedy book. It's about a person who had a successful company. He wanted to make it better. He hired a management specialist. The management specialist's idea was to hold committee meetings. Well, eventually they had committee meetings, just like certain people who I mentioned, in Full Circle, about the infinite procrastination, and like Warriors Gate about thinking that you're the omnipotent power forever, and the people that you take advantage of as colonialists are never going to get the power to speak up or say no. Well, 21st century has come. It's time to for everyone to dance on the dance floor, and everyone has a right on the dance floor. Also, everyone has a right in the selection of the band. But the thing is, what happens though is, it's just basically this thing about committees and other things. God, makes me wonder, because even during the Brexit trade things, when I had the radio show on WIPC, one time Lon and Nikita were part of my show, and one time I made a joke about it, and I actually heard a comment as we were driving back that said on the European news station, apparently someone, official of the British Isles, didn't like what I said, because this was about the trade thing and how they're hemming and hawing about what to do about this, and I used the analogy of golf. I said, if you're on the golf tee, and you swing and you get a slice and it goes, and you're not sure where it went, and what happens, rather than hit a professional, you're going to go out there and take a look and see if you can find that darn ball, so you don't have to take 2 penalty strokes, and then you walk back and you decide, and someone makes you walk back and you have to hit it. The people who are waiting to tee up, they're going to look like this, and my joke was, hit the provisional ball, and that was a joke about with the Brexit thing. Why not have an intermediate period so people don't get stuck, like at the 11th hour stuck? Have an intermediate period where these things work until both your committees can work this out. Again, basically the one Doctor Who episode, about infinite procedure all over again, like that though, and stuff. So they eventually they did, and people and things were worked out. Well, finally, to go to this example with this thing about in the last 2 years about thinking about sanctions and management and international policy, RT showed a thing that's generated as an AI generated video about the sanctions, and it showed like different world leaders, one pounding the head against the wall and going, one with the big pad going like this, and another one looking at the tablet trying to figure out what the Twitter feed is. And the best one I loved was a spoof of Backlot. It showed over Brussels at infinite committees, and what happens, it said like the 11th committee to decide the crisis, and it shows the act of praying decide, kicking the side down and going, God, what the fuck? We're not getting, and just walking off. And it was humorous as can be because even people who are well cultured and well mannered, sometimes this stuff like the Doctor in Full Circle can drive you up the wall. And one thing I was thinking as a practical joke, I don't know if I would do it, but what I would do is, as a practical joke, is I would send an episode of Full Circle to Macron, Van der Leyen, and the President of the European Union Council, as well as a gift card for Haagen-Dazs ice cream, and ask them to watch it with a letter explaining to them that um, we really need to think a different way. And but I don't know if I send it because nowadays um, the liberal media and the liberal society is so stoic. It reminds me of the movie The Spy Who Came In From the Cold, with a liberal librarian from England thought she was going to go to a youth conference in East Germany, and when she got there, she found out her East German friends, liberal, they're supposed to be more liberal than Britain at the time, but actually communists were very stoic, like, well, as a good communist, you should know this. And it's like, and so, I mean, I don't, I mean, I think it would be beneficial to send the episodes to them and send a Haagen-Dazs card so they can have a Haagen-Dazs while they watch it in a letter. But I don't know how it'll be taken because I think people are so stoic nowadays, they would take it the wrong way. Because I do think we also got to get back to having a sense of humor. Like on the two Lonnies and Dave Allen and others like that, though. Something that's really funny. That's really funny. Um, but just if you do get a chance to see this chat thing on RT, it's pretty good. And the last part of the RT thing, where they showed this chat, it showed the sanction board where someone was doing a wheel forge with the sanction board, spinning with and it was like, which country will we sanction today? So they spun it, and the board stopped at Antarctica. Well, technically, Antarctica is not a country. Antarctica is supposed to be a protected, non nationalistic region. But it showed a bunch of penguins watching RT on the TV, and so on the TV going after it was sanctioned. You know, people are intelligent enough to make those decisions. They're intelligent enough not to be manipulated. Um, this isn't the 1930s where many people did not have an high school education, and many people did not know the difference between different ideologies. If you give people a chance, they will do the right thing and make the right decisions. But when you act like Dean Limmer, um, or the triumvirate committee, I am decider Logan, I am decider Smith, I am decider Johnson. Of course, the people are going to revolt, and also they're going to find ways to go around your sanctions and go around Watch RT and other places. So again, trade is the best foreign policy, and what happens, I do think, um, from the last 2 years, there has to be a different way of thinking because this thing has gone on way too long. Now I'll move on to the next segment. In this concluding segment, I just would like to summarize. Um, I had my article published in 2600 magazine, um, volume 42, number 2, pages 26 to 28, and I'd like to urge everyone to read it. It's a good article. It's a good article about medical research at that time and some solutions I did, and also there are other great articles from colleagues in here as well. Um, Now, just I shouldn't have to say this, but based on current society and education, this is a traditional journal. So, if you're looking for a lot of pretty pictures, this is about content. This is about content, ideas, and other things. So, not a lot of pretty pictures. There's some pretty pictures on the back about basically things where 2600 magazine is shown, where it shows a dog reading 2600 magazine. And but what happens And also you have musings, and you do have letters to the editor. This also has a big letters to the editor section. So this is very much like an old computer magazine and a traditional newspapers used to be about ideas and content. Regarding the chat AI thing that's shown on RT, regarding the thinking done during this crisis, I do think it's humorous, and because basically it does show that basically the common, what they call common groupthink exercises that people overly rely on to do things. Folks, groupthink doesn't work. If you want groupthink, to those of us who are Doctor Who fans, if you love groupthink, join the Daleks or the Cybermen. We're not Daleks, we're not Cybermen, and to those of us in the United States who are Star Trek fans, we are not Borg. We are not Borg, but to group thinkers, they think everyone is either Dalek, Cybermen, or Borg. Nope, sorry, we're human beings. We have our own opinions. We have a right to say no. We have a right to speak up. And just like the African nations have discovered, they have a right to say no. They have a right to speak up. And they have that because they have trade and they have their own wealth and they control their own resources. Trade gives greater freedom. And that's why trade is the best foreign policy. Well, let me know what you think. I'm available on Twitter at Diana1A. Also, if you go to my website, KARTMEIS, I'll put the link in the comment section. It's run by Vix. There's also a comment box inside there, and I'll add that later after the show is posted. I'd like to thank you for watching Ideas with Diana, and remember, don't let anyone block what you listen to. Don't let anyone put blinders on you. Don't let anyone block what you see. Don't let anyone block what you can say. Don't let anyone block what you can read. And don't let anyone block what you can buy. It's your money, it's your money, it's your money. And finally, keep safe. This has been Ideas with Diana, episode 616.